I went in for four. I went for two very simple repairs. One of which was to reattach the side fender flares to the vehicle because they were starting to peel off. The second thing was for an alignment. Very simple alignment, super easy to do. Dealerships do it all the time. I walk out with a $2,000 bill that they then reduced to $990 something. Now, what the f went wrong? You know how honesty is the best policy? Well, not anymore in the automotive industry, especially with mechanics and dealerships. They will sell you whatever they want to sell you to get that overhead just a little bit lower. They pay such vast amount of money for the land that their facility is built on. In addition to the facility itself, they have to completely overcharge for very basic things. Alignments, oil changes, they'll sell you goods that you don't even need, and they do that just so you can get on the bandwagon and pay their bills. It's ridiculous. So let me just start with some context. Basically what happened was I brought my vehicle in for those two repairs. They quickly turned around, got them done. I drove back home, noticed the car was a little bit squirrely, so I brought it back to them to fix what they rightfully should have. Well, on my way back, I got jerked out of my left lane and jerked out of my right lane. The car just completely steered itself out of its own lane, both occasions, almost like it made a mistake and tried to auto-correct for it. And the dealership had, they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure it out. They were baffled. They didn't know what it was until they pulled up my Carfax report. They said the vehicle was in an accident 2.5 years ago and that caused the issue. Well, I didn't have a single problem until I brought it to them. Then they said that there were silver parts in the engine bay indicating non-OEM parts had been replaced, which is just absolutely absurd. That doesn't make any sense. Then when I called them on their BS, the service manager came back out to the lobby and had told me the reason why the car was steering left and right was because Firestone, the individuals who had done my alignment in the first place about 6 or 7 months ago, they apparently had done it incorrectly and had blown the ECU to the steering column. And the car didn't know where dead straight of the wheel was. Now, I'm no mechanic, but I call complete bullshit to that. It doesn't make any sense. If it had been fine before I brought it to them, how is it magically all broken once they touch it? It's like the Midas touch. They touch it and it turns to shit. The Midas touch of shit. They then handed me a bill for $2,000. $2,000. And I refused to pay. I told them that was completely ludicrous, as any individual would have done. They then agreed to cover the cost of the labor, and I would have to pay for the part, the steering column itself, which was a $990 something repair in on itself. 2 days later, I got a call directly from the service manager who had assured me that all problems were resolved and were no longer an issue at all. So I went and I test rode the vehicle with him for about a few miles, and he had explained the whole situation to me, basically making up lies, just complete crap spewing from his mouth, trying to convince me that they weren't at fault and they weren't liable in any manner whatsoever. They had told me that the control arm, the right control arm bolt had not been tightened all the way, and that there was extra play and the computer couldn't recognize where dead center of the steering wheel was because of that extra play. So it had overcompensated me on the highway whenever I made a slight adjustment, and then it realized that its overcompensation was too much, so it overcompensated again to correct the issue again. I wish I got in a crash. I really wish I would have wrecked the vehicle, because it would have been the best lawsuit ever, you know, bringing the vehicle back to the mechanic who completely botched a simple repair. But that's the society we live in nowadays. I guess now when you bring your vehicle to the mechanic to get a simple issue resolved, they completely try to sell you a whole bunch of services that you don't need whatsoever.